Miss Aubrey Jade could be a typical Instagram influencer. She has over 100,000 followers, she loves fashion, she wears these stylish and trendy outfits. One of her recent posts, she features a trench coat and the caption reads, "I just love trench coats and I'm obsessed with this one." There's one thing that sets Miss Aubrey Jade apart from the majority of other Instagram influencers. She is just 4 years old. She appears to be doing everything in her power to avoid looking 4 years old. She poses holding a Starbucks cup. She props up her legs and puts her hands on her hips, looking like, trying to look like a real influencer. She poses to accentuate hips and a bust that don't exist yet, because again, she's 4 years old. I follow this account called American Style, and they feature posts from lots of fashion influencers. And when I saw that they'd featured hers, I wanted to vomit. And when I clicked on her post, I saw that she was not alone. There were lots of other little mini fashion influencers, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. Instagram recommended that I check out Ariella Rose, another self-named mini influencer. Big sister Azaria follows the fashion adventures of a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old. Kylie Fidith was the third option for me to follow. Kylie's bio reads that she's 4. And that fashion is her passion. I scrolled through these images and these accounts, my horror mounting. I put my finger on what bothered me. They looked like mini influencers, not child influencers, but literally like miniature influencers, like adults made miniature. It was the furthest thing from childhood that I have ever seen. And I'm gonna post here a picture comparing an actual 20-something-year-old influencer and a 4-year-old fashion influencer, and I want to show you how similar they look. The fashion, the poses, the hair, it's creepy, it's gross, and I freaked out. So I looked at Miss Aubrey Jade's Instagram account, and it looks like her mother has been posting for her since she was 2 years old. What the fuck? How can any parent say, yeah, I will pose my child like this on Instagram? And of course, quickly, I found out the reason is money. I researched child influencers, and I was unsurprised when I learned that kidfluencers can earn as much as $100 per 1,000 followers that they have. For an influencer like Maya Basal, with over 1.5 million and growing followers, at the tender age of just 5, each sponsored post could earn her up to $15,000. Well, her or, her mom. Instagram itself says that nobody can have an account under the age of 13, much less 4 or 5 years old. How is that income from an influencer regulated? Does asking your child to pose while holding a pretend Starbucks coffee cup count as labor? To get my answers about how any of this was legal, I looked at what I would consider the original sort of case about this, which are, of course, child stars. And I learned that there are some legal protections for child actors. Paul Peterson, former child mouseketeer for the Mickey Mouse Club, was obviously a very popular and famous kid. The way he reacted to his childhood fame was by working with legal teams to overhaul California's existing child labor law. He said in an interview with The Guardian, "As I had to deal with my own demons when fame slipped away, I became keenly aware that other kids had the same problem. Estrangement from parents and siblings, the loss of identity when fame goes away. If you've given up, in the name of fame, your right to education free of bad influences, you are at risk, and this is not unknown to people." Coogan's Law, named after California's first child star, Jackie Coogan, was enacted when Jackie Coogan himself learned that every single penny of what he had earned belonged to his parents. People rightfully thought that that was garbage, and Coogan's Law was enacted. Today, a child actor owns 100% of their income, although parents are allowed to draw up to 85% of it for their own salary, a house, or anything else that relates to the management of their child's career. So that answers the legal issue. But going back to the sort of platform issue, YouTube and Instagram don't even allow people under the age of 13 to have an account. So how can they allow people under the age of 13 to monetize their accounts? From a legal standpoint, I assume that means that no preteen stars own their own accounts, because they can't under YouTube and Instagram's own rules. For YouTube, at least, there will be a record of the ad revenue on the videos, assuming that the videos are monetized through the partner program. But for Instagram or for brand deals, those are all usually done under the table or perhaps over the table, but there's no necessity of a legal record or a formal record of those. Interestingly, I looked on Instagram to see what they were doing about their own little cohort of child stars, and they didn't seem very concerned. When I looked up for Instagram kids safety, the only thing that came up was the fact that apparently there are a lot of child predators on Instagram who are messaging preteens and kids under the age of 18, which is obviously not great. So all of their sort of underage tools are aimed to helping those kids rather than, people who are 4 years old and have an Instagram account where their moms are posing them. Instagram says, by using machine learning to flag potentially inappropriate interactions, improving teen privacy features, and DMing younger users with real-time safety info, Instagram is equipping young people with the tools to be the architects of their own online experience. Now, I don't know about you, but if I was a 4-year-old, I would not feel like the architect of my own online experience on Instagram. How do you equip a person as young as 3 years old with the tools to be the architect of their own online experience? Well, both labor laws and social media platforms remain silent on the subject. Can your child even consent to working for you? One troubling trend that came up during my research at every single step was that the parent is in control. My mom loves to tell this story of how her mom, Grandma Rain, quit smoking. My grandma quit smoking through her pregnancy, but when my mom was born, she picked it back up again because back then people didn't really know that it was a horrible thing. But then she saw my mom putting the ashes in her mouth. My mom, at the age of 2, was copying her and putting the ashes in her mouth to copy my grandma, because that's what she was doing, and so my mom wanted to do the same thing. They must have tasted disgusting, but that's what her mom was doing. And so naturally my mom was thinking, yeah, this is what people do with ashes, they just eat them. This is what I have to do. Children are impressionable. My mom was eating ashes because she was so impressionable. This caused my grandma to quit smoking on the spot because that was filth to see. But today's parents don't seem as concerned with how they're influencing their children. Martha Krejci was interviewed by Fast Company about her own daughter. So Martha herself is the influencer, but her child has appeared on the camera a couple of times. Anytime I'm doing a live stream, my daughter will jump in on it, she said to Fast Company. She knows there are other people on the other side of the camera. She'll wave at them and talk to them. As she has questions, I'm helping her understand what this life is about and what she's doing and the part she's playing in it. Her child. Others were subtler when they tried to justify the work that they make their children do. We know it's something that we could have not put out on YouTube, but we film our whole lives. Savannah LeBrant told The Guardian about her April Fool's prank. She lied to her child Everly to say that they were going to be giving away their dog. She did this in order to get Everly to react for the camera for an April Fool's Day video that was uploaded. That's what we signed up for, she says. We, I assume, being her and her underage child. Let's go back to Martha. She continues to Fast Company. To any parent that thinks this might be something their kid would enjoy doing, you really have to be okay with your kid being in public. Well, LeBrant may have signed up for that. Krejci might have said it was okay. But how can a child agree to that at the age of 2 or 3? How can any parent in good conscience look at their kid saying, yeah, I want to be on YouTube, and not start thinking about the dangers and the potential harm that could be causing their child? In a very similar way as my grandma quitting smoking on the spot when she saw that my mom was copying her, why aren't these parents saying, this doesn't seem right? Just because the kid is excited about it doesn't necessarily mean that it isn't very harmful for them. B. Fisher, another influencer mom, gives me the perfect answer to my question of how she manages her young child's work schedules. Discussing her 3 boys, all of whom are Instagram famous, she told Wired, if there are days they're totally not into it, they don't have to be. Unless it's paid work, then they have to be there. We have lollipops on those days. Nolo, the legal encyclopedia website, states that the unauthorized use of a photo includes if the photo was taken by someone who intruded on you in a situation in which you had a reasonable expectation of privacy, for example, in your own home, and if your image is used for commercial purposes, such as to sell products or imply that you endorse a product. Children are not legally able to work until the age of 14, even with their parents' consent, and they certainly can't consent to legally working at the age of 5. Sheila Donovan goes one step further in her 2020 paper, Sharenting, the Forgotten Child of the GDPR. She writes, The online practice of sharenting removes the autonomy of the child and denies them the right to craft their own footprint on a blank online canvas, which should be the birthright of every child. I think she's right. So what comes next for someone who's Instagram famous at 5 years old? As disgusting as I find posing your 5-year-old in front of a camera for brand sponsorship deals, I can't think of social media without also thinking about the story of Asenna O'Neill. In a social media feed filled with beautiful, smiling faces, hers is the story I think about most often. In October 2015, this gorgeous 18-year-old model threw away her entire social media career. She threw away, I think she had over 500,000 followers at the time. She had 2,000 photos posted on Instagram. She had brand sponsorships. She had deals. She had a YouTube channel. And she threw it all away. She posted an honest, truthful, raw video that confirmed the truth that I had always suspected. Being pretty, professionally, online, it's hard. It's really hard. Even if you're 15 years old, and especially if you're only 5. She wrote about how lonely she felt, how contrived all of her photos were, how her likes and comments became a way for her to feel good about herself. She's since deleted all of her accounts and all of her photos, but I recall one particularly devastating photo which she rewrote the caption for after the fact. The original photo was a picture of her smiling outside in the sunshine, and the caption read, "Things are getting pretty wild at my house, Maths B and English in the sun." She rewrote the caption to read, "See how relatable my captions were. Stomach sucked in, strategic pose, pushed up boobs. I just want younger girls to know this isn't candid life or cool or inspirational. It's contrived perfection made up to get attention." As I think of her complex, toxic, unhappy relationship with social media, I can't help but wonder what's going to happen to Basal, to Jade, to all the other little babies out there who are influencing other parents to buy outfits for their own kids? I don't know. I can't help but think about the bizarre parasocial relationships that form between influencers and their fans, and how hard that is to navigate as an adult, much less as a kid. Unlike with child actors or pop stars, in order to be successful in social media, you do need an element of authenticity. With performances, you draw a line. That's the performance you, and this is the real you. But with social media, things are different. With your audience clamoring for a sneak peek behind the curtains at the real you, how does that look for kids? Readers are attracted to what they see as genuine revelations. Mark Bartholomew, cyber law expert at the University of Buffalo, told HuffPost, explaining why sharenting may one day have legal repercussions as parents post intrusive or disturbing content on their kids' behalf. To my knowledge, there hasn't yet been a lawsuit like this in the United States, but it could definitely happen. If Spencer Eldon is able to sue Nirvana for using his baby photo for money without his permission all those years ago, then it's possible that kidfluencers will grow up and find themselves with the grounds to sue their own parents for doing similar wrong acts to them in the name of money and fame. Even Facebook and Instagram know and admit that being on social media that much has a really harmful effect on teenage girls and probably people of all ages, genders, and purpose for being on the platform. Totally aside from the issues of consent, privacy, money, I don't see people asking enough, what is going to happen to these girls when they grow up? When you're famous on Instagram for being pretty as a toddler, what comes next for you? What is real adulthood when your whole upbringing has been posted online for other people to look at and dissect and post heart emojis under? There isn't enough research to predict how children might be affected when their relationship with their caregiver is dependent on their financial performance. When your parents are the ones posing you online for money, who can you count on to look after your safety online? Because it's not them. Thank you for watching this video essay. I saw this, I hated it, and I knew I had to write about it, and that's how I'm fitting this into my group of videos about how to grow your blogging empire online. This is an article that performed pretty well for me on Medium. I had such a strong reaction to it when I first saw that this was happening online, and I knew that I had to say something. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more of this kind of investigative journalism kind of video, I've got a whole channel full of them. And let me know what you think in the comments. Is this okay? Is there any reason why this would be acceptable for parents to do? Okay, bye everyone.